well, I don't know when you're gonna hear this, but this morning here, it's 8:30. I've been up for 4 hours. I've been awake for 4 hours, but I haven't really been up. I made some coffee and made some toast and put some marmalade on it, and got on to Facebook, and well, it was offline Facebook, so I was still reading some messages, but then I was just like making posts and stuff, and yeah, I don't know. I guess it's almost obvious that some people have a propensity to send messages that are like, I guess a really good way of thinking about it is within the locus of control and the external locus of control. It's an interesting word. So I guess like attitude, mindset, filters, skill sets, like these plants do this, or like this is how you prepare those mushrooms, and like here's a novel way to set a foundation. I don't know. There's different things that are more about like developing as an individual and contributing constructively to your life. And then there's like these external locus of control items like politics and religion and state affairs of state, things that are like global talking points. And they say like think globally and act locally. Because like unless we start our own world economic like actually forum, like isn't the word forum like a place where more than one person gets to talk? Like I thought that's what a forum was about, because when I see the WEF, it's like one ultra elite person being interviewed, softball questions, to like be allowed to propagate their agenda. And it's like, that's pretty cool and powerful and amazing, and wouldn't it be sweet if other people got the opportunity to propagate their agendas? And you're allowed to disagree with people's agendas, like if you don't really like what Mr. Schwab has to say, then you don't interrupt him, and you don't say like that's false news. You just say like, well, that's your opinion, man, and then you can choose how much of that you want to absorb and integrate, assimilate. But it seems reasonable that every other person should have that fair and equal opportunity. Maybe not even the opportunity of equality of opportunity, not equality of outcome either. But like, is free speech an amendment? Like, was that added on after the fact by like some other group, or like the founding like charter documents? Now, the Canadian Charter of Rights was actually written by Trudeau Sr. So if you've got any real sense of what's actually happening, or if you've listened to any news outside of Canada, like Skynet and Sky News in Australia, even BBC News and Al Jazeera, like if you're listening to any Fox News or whatever that's worth, it's editorials, but it's not government funded by the Canadian government, right? It's not any other news organization that's not funded by the Canadian government. If you hear what they have to say, we live in a dictatorship, an authoritarian, violent, aggressive dictatorship. It's known. It's not a conspiracy. It's not like maybe you're feeling oppressed because you have a victim mentality. It's like, no, this is really, really bad, and it's not necessarily Trudeau's fault. I don't think it's just. I mean, there's documents coming out that Justin Trudeau has been molesting children, so that needs further investigation. And I don't think there's a statute of limitation on if someone should go to jail for something like that. But I don't think it's Justin's fault that we live in a police state. I think it's been happening. I think Chrétien probably had something to do with it, and I know that Trudeau Sr. had something to do with it. So if we're relying on just the Charter of Freedoms, Rights and Freedoms, then what we're actually doing is fighting with both of our arms tied behind our backs. Like, that's not any type of benchmark for what being a sovereign individual is. It's not. And so I wanted to write this video. I wanted to write this video because I feel that content creation is very important. As an individual, as a like, what is your purpose as being a human? Why aren't you a dog, a cat, a titmouse? Why aren't you a worm? Like, what is your purpose for being a human? Is it to, like, what do you have that makes you better than a rock or a tree? And are you better than a rock and a tree? And if there's one thing that could like change the hierarchy of how a human being should be held to a higher standard or higher regard than any other aspect of nature, creation of God, it's the ability to create out of willpower and intention. It's the ability to make a proactive choice from a vision that's in your head, to be creative. And that's not taught in schools. And you know, it's interesting that, like, oh, this person couldn't sit still for 6 hours under fluorescent lights in a concrete building in an uncomfortable chair. There's probably something wrong with them. They should be medicated. That's wild. That's wild. And anyway, so where was I? But creativity gets canceled out if you're not regurgitating the information that they gave you. You know, as an example, like, I don't know, I think we were talking about, I was in like grade 1, and I was like, I answered with the word cloths because that's how I pronounce the word clothes, but it's clothes, but it looks like cloths. And instead of like, oh, I think you mispronounced it, the teacher was like, no, that's wrong. And I was like, it's not wrong. That's just how I pronounced it. I'm in grade 1. I'm 7 years old. Anyway, so there's a lot of like, no, that's wrong, and like basing an experience out of the impossible limit of 100%. Like, it's impossible. Like, we're humans. Like, you know that you have to fuck up. And so, like, if there's 100 questions on a test, even testing might not be perfect. Testing's not bad because that's how you should grade a welder or a construction worker. Like, there are things that, you know, are on a scale of, well, you didn't fuck up that bad, like psychiatry or psychology or parenting. Like, there are things that's like on a gradient scale of, wow, that's pretty fucked up, to like, not so terrible. And you know, and I think that like goes into making food, like your dinner. You know, it's not like that's a perfect dinner. It's like, oh, that's really impressive. You know, like, that's not. It's qualitative instead of quantitative. So to base the first 20 years of your life on quantitative, you're missing out on, like, the experience is minuscule compared to what it could possibly be. So 10 minutes is definitely a very long video for YouTube. and incredibly long for Facebook. So I think I'm gonna have to cut it here. But yeah, really enjoying my drive, and I'm holding my hand. I'm doing my handheld thing, and I'm not wearing a seatbelt. And I mean, whatever. That's the worst that I do. Like, that's the most. And this is a single. I'll show you. It's a single lane road. And you know, that's my commute to work. You know, if there's a traffic jam on this road, it's because someone's llama got out, or you know, there's a deer picking at the vegetation. Yeah, so the best I can do to be the best version of myself is to do my best to not earn money, not spend money, or transmute money into goods that serve more than just me. And that could be like through stages, right? So like, I could buy myself food, but if that makes me healthy so that I can be a better person, like healthier and stronger and smarter, then, you know, so I don't want to spend money on like chewing gum and chewing gum like things like movies, TV, Netflix. Like, if Netflix was free, I would probably, you know, through my addiction end up using it. But in terms of like paying money to then ruin not just my life but my daughter's, I can't really justify that, right? So what I mean by that is like paying as little or no rent, paying as little or no taxes, paying as little or no gas, like trying to minimize my economic footprint, not necessarily my carbon footprint. I know that every move that I make economically goes to make the rich richer and the poor poorer. So I don't want to function that way. So that's the stick, but the carrot is the less time that I spend focusing on trying to scrape together a buck and chip away at someone else's wealth. The less time I try to do that, the more time I have to consider how to make life more wonderful. And I think that some of my posts, you know, maybe I'm in the darkness of my room, or maybe you can't hear a tone of voice. So I think that some of my posts may come off as angry or something. But the thing is that there are important things that we need to discuss. And if you don't agree with me, maybe worse than calling me names like, oh, you're an idiot and you're stupid and, you know, you don't know what you're talking about, and that, you know, instead of being like, worse than being mean is not engaging. That's way worse. So come on in, call me a jerk, tell me all of the ways that I harmed you, and all of the ways that you're offended. Please do that. On this post or any of my other posts. It might take an effect on my psyche, but who knows if that's for the good or not. So there's important stuff that we need to work through, and I do believe that it starts with discussing various aspects and perspectives of a potential issue, helping to open up, not close up, the way it's described. You know, like there's lots of room for metaphor and simile and allegory. There's lots of room for is like. So, and there's room for hate. Unfortunately, it's kind of a thing. Because when someone gets squelched, and the number one form of censorship, like the most hurtful form of censorship, is self-censorship. When you think, I can't say that because what would other people think? I can't say that because I might endanger myself. That type of censorship is the psychological warfare beating us down. It's actually warfare, and it's way more gruesome than cluster bombs. Like it's really bad. So because the hurt of, like, I don't know, I've never been shot, but I'm thinking that the hurt of I've experienced some serious physical pain. I've had my face shattered in 6 places. Like, I've had to have reconstructive surgery on my face. So I know what physical pain is, and that's nothing compared to depression, anxiety, worry, frustration, fear, blame, because I've experienced those too. And it's really important that we start to feel empowered, and that we start to feel a sense of togetherness. And I don't think I'm there yet where I can just let other people. Yeah, I don't know what it is. There's lots of people who get to say and do what they want to me without remorse, without recourse. And I think I'm going to stop that. I think that people should be accountable for their actions and their inactions. And you know what though? The thing is, it's not I think. That's a immutable law. There are always consequences. Right? Like, if the boat is sinking and you don't bail out, and you're like, well, if I don't do anything, maybe something else. Like, it's not how that works. Like, you have to get involved, or you don't. You don't have to get involved. So, thanks for listening to this diatribe, twice as long as I thought it was going to be, and see you next time. Stay free.